You don't have to stop talking. Okay. Still got one more minute. Nope, that went, okay. Are we good, Alicia? Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is a regular meeting of the Grantsville City Council. For the record, today's date is Wednesday, February 4th, 2026, and the time is 7 p.m. This meeting is being held at the Grantsville City Council chambers located at 429 East Main Street, Grantsville, Utah, as well as electronically via Zoom. I am Mayor Heidi Hammond, and I will conduct a roll call for the record. Councilmember Butler.
Here.
Dalton.
Here.
Skinner.
Here.
Thomas.
Here. Williams.
Here. Thank you. And I've asked Les Peterson to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would all please rise.
When the proper command is given, will you please render the proper respect to the flag? Present arms. Would you please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Our first agenda item tonight is public comment. The floor is now open to the public to bring their concerns to the council. And just a statement that we're not really able to interact with you or give answers or to questions, but we will hear your concerns and address them as the evening goes on. If there's anyone who would like to make a public comment, please come forward. Or if you are on Zoom and would like to make a comment, please raise your hand. Nobody on Zoom, Alicia? Okay, we'll close that item. Item number 2, summary action items. Number 1, approval of minutes from the January 22nd, 2026 City Council regular meeting and the January 26th, 2026 special meeting. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes or questions?
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 22nd, 2026 City Council meeting, regular meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Any comments on the special meeting? Was that the regular meeting, Rhett, that you?
Yeah, I
Okay.
wasn't at the special meeting, so.
Well, then- Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion for the special meeting?
I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes for the January 2026 special meeting.
Is there a second?
I second it.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Dalton and a second by Councilmember Williams. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next item is the bills. The approval of the bills. Does anybody have any comments or questions on the bills?
Make a motion, we approve the bills.
We have a motion by Councilmember Butler. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Thomas. Any other questions or comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Right, we'll pass that item. Agenda item 3, consideration of approving resolution 2026-02, authorizing the issuance and sale of not more than $50 million aggregate principal amount of sewer revenue bonds, Series 2026 and related matters. And I believe that we have Aspen Clegg and Alex Burton here from Zions Bank to present that for us tonight.
Good evening, council. This is in regards to being able to bond for our wastewater treatment plant that we are starting to get close to being ready to begin building. So this would allow us to go out to bid, in order to be able to get a bond for the wastewater treatment plant.
Good evening. I'm Alex Buxton from Zions Bank Public Finance. It's great to be with you. I've been here many times before, and this process, as Aspen pointed out, is the start of the bonding process. The action that the council may take tonight does not lock the city into any bonds, but it does allow us the opportunity to move forward in the process to issue those sewer revenue bonds. We've got a what's called a parameters resolution that calls for a public hearing that we've got scheduled on April 1st. It also designates the mayor and the city manager and the city finance director as designated officers that would allow them to move forward with the issuance of the bonds, assuming we stay within the parameters set forth. Those current parameters are 50 million in the par amount, 34 years in the maturity, the length of term of the bonds, and 6% coupon or interest rate. Those are outside parameters. However, I want to emphasize that the city has already received at a minimum of $16 million at a 0.75% interest rate over 30 years, which is substantially lower than what current market interest rates are. So kudos to the city staff that helped secure that $16 million 0.75% 30-year loan through the state of Utah's Water Quality Board. Now, in my meetings as your city's financial advisor, municipal advisor, and meeting with city manager and finance director, it's very important to them that we try to get the lowest interest rate, of course we can, for the remaining amount of bonds that would need to be issued for this project. And so under their direction, we've reached back out to the state of Utah's sewer or water quality board to request additional subsidized funding in addition to that 16 million. We haven't heard back whether or not we're going to be able to get anything more in that regard, but we're certainly going to pursue all options to try to get that lowest interest rate possible. Obviously, the project itself is grown a little bit as far as the amount needed to complete the project since we went to the state a year and a half ago. And so we're trying to get them to understand that the costs are higher, and so we need more money at that low subsidized rate. But at the very least, we're going to have 16 million at that 0.75% subsidized rate. So this bond will eventually, as we move ahead, will eventually become two separate bonds. We'll do one with the state of Utah Water Quality Board, and whatever we need in addition to what we can get from them, we'll do through a most likely a private placement bond, where we would send out a request for bids to all interested banks and financial institutions that would buy these bonds, and we take the lowest interest rate we could get. So they would compete with one another, and we'd work with city and the city and determine who the low bid on that is. So anyway, that's just kind of an overview of kind of what's to come. But with respect to what's happening tonight, this just kind of gets us started off in that direction with the parameters, and puts us in a position to where we can move ahead once we're ready to issue the bonds. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I know Aspen has been working hard on this as well, and so she knows about as much as I do at this point. So feel free to ask us any questions that you might have.
I have a question. Do we have any type of a time frame as to when we would hear back from the state on additional funds?
Yeah, that's a great question. A couple of weeks ago, we did make some communication with the main person that's managing those funds. And he came back and asked us some questions, and Aspen immediately responded and gave him the information he needed, and we hadn't heard back. And then I reached out on Friday and got a notification that he would be gone until the 9th of February. So he must be out of town. So, you know, we're hoping as soon as he's back in town that we can follow up again with him and again, do everything we can. He did indicate in a email that funds are pretty tight with water quality as far as what's available and applicants that already have money from them or are getting money from them, but there potentially was about a $3.5 million amount, I think he said, that, you know, potentially we could look at. So, you know, we're cautiously optimistic. We know we won't be able to get a whole lot more than what we've already received from them. It's rare that applicants can come back and get more money than what they were already authorized. And we're certainly grateful for what they already gave us. But, you know, we'll certainly do everything we can to try to get that additional 3.5 million if that's the number that's available. But we're hoping in the next few weeks we'll know you know, what we might be able to get from them, and then we'll get a better idea of what that second series of bond amount will need to be that we go out and sell out in the market.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have just a quick numbers question for you. So in the packet in Exhibit B, in fact, B-2, it talks about the total estimated cost of the bonds. Is that number that was provided, is that the estimated amount as with the 6% with the total of $50 million? So that's not including the 16 million that we have
That
at the 0.75%.
yeah. So that number is the sum of the 16 million at 0.75%, but then the remaining 34 million at the highest parameter we have, which is 6%. Now the numbers that we've been running based on where the current market is, we assume that we would get a rate closer to 4%. So about a third less than what that 6% number is. But, you know, we always have to estimate high on the parameters as well as the total cost. And the only reason why we have that coupon or that parameter at 6% is that sometimes bidders on the bonds will serialize the maturities in that they might charge more for a longer bond and less for a shorter bond. And then the kind of the average of both would give us what our true interest cost is. We call it the tick. And that tick we estimate to be at 4%. Or roughly thereabouts. I mean, we don't know until we get our bids back. And currently we're in an interest rate environment where interest rates are going down. So we're in a great position to, you know, as time moves along, we might even get a better and better rate. You never know where rates are going to be. But that's why we put that parameter up at 6, is just in case of, you know, somebody decides to serialize that bid. A lot of bidders will just give a set rate top to bottom, but that anyway, again, we assume right now that separate bond from the state bond is going to be right in that 4% range, give or take. So that's a very, very conservative number that you're looking at there.
Okay, good.
We always like to, the goal I think is always to, you know, under promise and over deliver when it comes to the cost of these bonds.
I
So
just want to know your approach.
yeah,
So, okay,
the great question though,
I
Rhett.
understand. So and we trust that you'll go to bat for us. So
Absolutely.
swing hard, would you?
Yeah,
'Cause
absolutely.
Every basis point counts, right?
Absolutely. Well, and like I mentioned earlier in my last meeting with Michael and with Aspen, I mean, that was their focus is, hey, we need to make sure we don't leave any rock and, turned and whether it be more money from the state or, trying to get the best bid we can with this private placement bond, we'll absolutely work hard for you on that. So with their help, so.
Right.
Any other questions on the financing side or the calendar side, timing? If not, my recommendation would be to proceed ahead with the adoption of the parameters and then we'll, get to work on it.
I did have one quick question, and maybe this isn't something you can answer, but maybe Alexis. So with the meeting being on April 1st, that means that we can't enter into a contract as we receive bids back from the contractor because the RFQ is out, right? Or will be out.
I think
for the
it's,
project.
do you want to help me with the timing on that? That's in March, right?
Yeah,
That
so
process.
it is out right now, the bid for the construction of the plant. It closes right now, I believe, on March 11th, Christy. So, that, the way we have it set up now is just a little bit of insurance to allow, because right now we're going off engineers' estimates for the cost of the plant. We don't have numbers from contractors of actual, I'll build it for this. So this allows us to open a bid and start moving forward with the contractor and knowing exactly how much we need to bond for, with that being a couple weeks later in April.
Yeah, just curious on the timing.
Yeah.
But it sounds like we got our ducks in a row then. Okay.
All right, anyone else have any questions? You want to make a motion?
This will be the single largest investment that Grantsville City will make to date and may not make another one larger than this for a long time coming, right?
Well, I hope not.
Yeah. So with that in mind, I mean, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-02 authorizing the issuance and sale of not more than $50 million of aggregate principal amount of sewer revenue bonds, series 2026 and related matters. So
We have a motion by Councilmember Butler. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a second by Councilmember Skinner. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I didn't hear Jake, sorry.
I said aye.
Okay, sorry. All right, thank you, and thanks for your information and all your work, both of you. Thank you.
Think that.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 4, consideration of approving resolution 2026-05, appointing Gary Merrill as a regular planning commission member. And Gary is unable to attend in person tonight. He was hoping to join online. Is he available, Alicia?
Oh.
Is-
I'm
He's
I'm
Are you
here.
there, Gary?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Gary? Obviously, we got to be a little more acquainted with him 2 weeks ago. So does anyone have any concerns or questions you'd like to ask Gary at this time?
no concerns, but just appreciate him being willing to sit on that commission, and it is unpaid, and so we appreciate your wanting to volunteer for that. So thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. We do appreciate you being willing to accept this appointment. So
You bet.
do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2026-05, appointing Gary Merrill as a regular planning commission member.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Dalton. Do we have a second?
I second it.
A second by Councilmember Williams. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Item number 5, consideration of approving resolution 2026-10, appointing Cameron Moulton as a regular planning commission member. Cameron, do you mind coming up for just a minute? All right, we also got to get to know Cameron as well. Does anybody have any questions for Cameron?
Just the same sentiment, thank you. So, we got to meet you, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
So-
yep.
So, yeah,
Um,
thank you.
Can I just say something real quick? Like, so after you interviewed last week and Gary too, and then after last night at the planning commission meeting and seeing John, and I really think that the planning commission is in good hands now. Like, I think they're
Absolutely.
the best that we've been in a long time.
We're
So,
very grateful.
thank
So
you.
thank
Yeah.
you.
It's a very vital part of how we operate, so thank you for, I think we're in great hands, so.
All right, does anyone want to make a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion, we move to approve resolution 2026-10, appointing Cameron Moulton as a regular planning commission member.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Thomas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Butler. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes and thank you very much. All right, item number 6 is a discussion and a consideration of ordinance 2026-06, approving a general plan amendment to change the land use designation for the Apple Street Townhome subdivision. And I'm just going to state the parcels that are listed on the screen as presented. When we make a motion for this, those numbers will need to be listed out that one time. So for right now, the parcel numbers are listed on the screen and are on the agenda. From single family density to mixed use density located at approximately Cherry Blossom Lane and Apple Street. And is that you, Bill?
It's me.
Please come up. We can't wait to hear
I'm
what you
not
have to
as
say.
adept as Shelby, so I won't even pretend, but she's not feeling well, and so we'll excuse her and ask to indulge me in my conversation tonight. So a couple of things to keep in mind when we discuss general plan amendments, and we have 2 on the agenda tonight. So I'll go into just a little bit of depth for this first one, with the understanding that when we get to the second consideration, that we will, it'll be the same type of understanding. So I won't have to do the whole song and dance for that second one as well. The general plan is a reflection of the will of the people. It anticipates what the city wants to look like for the next 20 years. It's meant to be aspirational and provide guidance for making decisions about zoning and other land use regulations. And it's only to be altered or amended under a couple of different very serious and kind of unique situations. It's not meant as a reflection of the will of the people. It's not meant to be just casually tampered with or amended. So early on in my career, I learned that there are basically 3 situations in which we would want to consider amending a general plan or a future land use map of the general plan. And one of those obviously is if there was a mistake made, a clerical error or something that happened so that it didn't really reflect what was anticipated. The second one would be if the morals of the community have changed, if the desires of the community have changed in the interim, such that, I don't know, suddenly we decided that one area that had been set aside for agricultural use now was desirable for industrial use. And that kind of thing does happen. And that's, again, meant to be a reflection of the will of the people in that regard, not necessarily just because we felt like it was the right thing to do. The third thing is, and this is what's in front of you tonight, is if there is a new property owner and it's a very limited kind of change that better fits with what the goals and objectives of the general plan are. In those circumstances, the property owner would come to the city and say, you know, I want to pursue this kind of use on the property. And the general plan doesn't really reflect that desire. It's much more limited in scope to a particular property and a particular property owner's desire, rather than a larger area that may be under consideration. So that's what we're looking at tonight. In both of these instances, we're looking at a property owner who has looked at the way that the general plan is right now and said, this doesn't really fit with both the character of the neighborhood, the direction that we feel like we want the neighborhood to go. And so they petitioned the city to make these amendments to the general plan and to the future land use map of the general plan. This is for good reason, in that the desire further then is to change the zoning that is related to the future land use map. And one of the reasons why you would allow or disallow a amendment to the zoning map of the city is based on the general plan. So if the general plan doesn't support the requested zone change, that would be a reasonable reason for denial. And just to make everything clear and to make sure that everybody is on the same page when it comes to what's being supported, what's being anticipated, and what's being asked for, staff encourages people to get future land use map amendment first, and then seek the zone change that follows along the associated general plan amendment. So that's why there's two separate items. The first is a future land use map amendment. It doesn't change the general plan except the use, the anticipated use in the future land use map on this property. It's changing it from, what are we looking at? Single family to mixed use designation on the future land use map. And that's what's being sought tonight by the applicants.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Bill or questions on the information in the packet?
Because I do, do we know what the landowner wants to do with it, I guess, and what are their intentions?
We do have some idea. We're a little bit constrained on what we can ask for a developer. And it's a good question with regard to this particular item, as well as the one that's to come, which obviously is a much bigger piece of land and a much bigger kind of thing. We're limited as to what we can require or even ask for from the developer with regard to a certain kind of financial investment and doing a layout. Last night, for example, they talked about a traffic study that could and should be a part of any further development of the property. Those kinds of things involve a significant financial investment towards a desired outcome from the city council. And that could be looked at and has been looked at in the past, depending on other kinds of things, as a financial investment in the property and in a decision by the city council. So we can ask what their general thoughts are and what their general ideas are, but the assumption has to be, and always should be, when it comes to not future land use map, but the actual zoning entitlements, you have to assume that whatever is allowed in the code is what will go on the property. So the developer could come in and say, well, I just want to do a teepee and a taco stand. And if the code allows it, then you would say yes. But then the code also allows for all kinds of other things as well that the developer may then do with the property. So really the question isn't what is their plan? The question is, what does the code allow for? Because that's what will go on the property. And I used to say, you have to think the worst case scenario. There shouldn't be a worst case scenario. The code should just say, this is what's allowed. And if it's worst or bad, we should not allow it in the code. So what's being sought tonight is an amendment to the future land use map to support a zone change, and then the zone change to support the uses that are desired on the property. The short answer to your question, though, is that we have been given some, or have seen some plans for some potential multifamily dwellings on the property, and then some businesses on the the area of the land that's closest to Main Street. So as you know, this property has sat largely vacant for quite a while and has been in need of some investment and some rehabilitation. And a lot of that is currently actually even going on. There've been inspections and other things out on the property that I'm aware of. So the financial investment is being made, and they are looking at how to best develop the property in a way that makes sense. So that's what we're looking
So
at.
this piece of property has structures that were built according to what was originally designed for that area and
Correct.
approved at one point in time.
Yes.
And so I think it is kind of fair to ask,
Yeah.
are those buildings going to be torn down? Like there's, you know, so I think that is valid in that situation because we're looking at a piece of property that sat for 20 years.
How
16
long
years.
has it been sitting there vacant?
Two
Just-
thousand twenty-five.
Yeah, 20 years.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
been a minute. I know that the developer, and I'm hedging. If you see me stuttering, it's because I'm hedging a little bit because again, the developer has given us information that may or may not come to fruition, and so
Subject to change.
it's always subject to change, and it's again based on what the zoning will allow. So they've indicated that they want to push down the garages that have been built, but to rehabilitate the clubhouse, the whatever that facility is, into something that will be useful for residents of whatever multifamily project or development goes in there.
So, Bill, question. So on the next one too, we're talking about, we're gonna rezone it to RM15 with commercial 0.955 acres. I'm assuming that's the part of Main Street in the front.
Correct.
So instead of changing the general plan to mixed use, wouldn't it make more sense to change it to the RM15 where those houses are back there and then the front to a commercial zoning? Because mixed use is kind of not the best zoning. I don't know if we want that to be there. Instead, just do the RM15 to let them get the density that they want or what their plan might be. And then the commercial up front on Main Street, change that to a commercial zoning. I don't know, I don't know what the process was to get the multi-use instead of doing it that way. If you could explain
Yeah,
that.
so
I mean, I could maybe talk to it if you don't mind.
Yeah,
from my
no, yeah,
perspective. So really with the general plan, there isn't an RM15 designation. There's a commercial designation, there's a mixed use designation, there's a high single family dwelling or density residential, and then there's a medium, and then there's a low, and then it goes to rural and so on and so forth. So I think what we're trying to accomplish here is just for the future land use plan, we're trying to designate that area in the plan where it's mixed use on the top end facing 138.
Mhm.
And that parcel, those parcels, the plan will turn purple essentially instead of orange for those parcels right there. So it's adjacent to mixed use, and mixed use we know can be commercial as well. It's, yeah, you see it right there. So I mean, that's the highest in the future land use plan, the highest, or really mixed use is the highest, right? But that one just below it is high single family density residential. There's no RM15. Am I speaking out of turn?
you're absolutely right. And that's what I was going to say is that what is being sought is really not much different from what is already kind of down the street, just a little bit further to the east, where it drops down to Apple Street and it's all mixed use along that area. So the future land use map designation being sought is the mixed use. And then that would support commercial along Main Street as well as a higher density and mix of uses on the southerly portion of the property.
You know, it's interesting because agenda item number 7, then we're rezoning it and changing it from, interestingly enough, A10, which doesn't match what the future land use is right now, but that's what it was for years. And then we're changing the A10 and the R112 to RM15. We're not even changing it to mixed use.
Mhm.
It's just on the general plan, we're changing it to what this says in the future land use plan is mixed use density. So,
I just have a historical question. If this project was already being built in 2005, is that what we
Yes,
said?
I have the same question.
same question.
So if this was already being built, and obviously there's structures already placed on this property that have been sitting there for 20-something years, and I'm just confused about why is the zoning still inappropriate for what was planned then? Like, why are we here?
It's a good question. I don't know that I have an answer to that necessarily, except to say that there must have been some sort of understanding about how the property was zoned and to be developed. I don't know if that was a PUD or if it was a lapsed kind of agreement with the city, with a development agreement or something like that, that has since been dissolved or gone away because the property has changed hands or who knows what.
Yeah,
But-
because the A10 parcel isn't even 10 acres, right?
Right.
It's like 3 or something.
So, and
How,
That's-
how is it still in an A10 zone?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I couldn't see anything in the notes or any of that. I mean, it was 2005, it was 20 years ago.
Right.
I mean, processes have changed. I don't know if zoning's changed that much, but you would think that they would have taken care of that prior. But I mean, neither here nor there.
Right,
we're at
here we
this point
are.
Now, here we
Yes.
are. So it needs to be done.
And it's one of the nice things about having this go through the way it is that it brings the full development into the light of day and will demonstrate and have to meet the compliance and strictures of our current codes. So this is a net positive for the city in a lot of different ways.
Well, I mean, right now it's an eyesore, I think.
It's an attractive nuisance for
I
sure.
called it the debacle on Apple for years. So, yeah. It's unfortunate that it didn't, finish up the way it should have. So,
Well, here's our chance to help make it right.
there we go.
Are there any other concerns regarding this property? If not, I need a motion, and I just want to state again that those parcel numbers will need to be listed on the motion.
Wow.
I know nobody's gonna do it because they don't. It's what I was told.
Really, Tyson?
It was Alicia that told me.
Wow.
Can't they have the motion as stated on the agenda?
It's all good.
No.
I'll make the motion. Make a motion, Mayor, make a motion to approve ordinance 2026-06, approving a general plan amendment to change the land use designation for the Apple Street Townhome subdivision, parcels 01-066-0-0006 and 23-001-0-00A and 01-112-0-0012 and 01-112-0-0011 from single family density to mixed use density located at approximately Cherry Blossom Lane and Apple Street.
We have a motion by Councilmember Butler. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Councilmember Skinner. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that item passes. We will move on to the second half of this discussion area. So item number 7, a discussion and consideration of ordinance 2026-05 approving a rezone from the A10 and R112 to the RM15 multiple residential district for the Apple Street Townhome subdivision on the parcels that have previously been listed. I'm assuming, Bill, you're going to take the lead on this as well.
Yes, and I don't have much more to add. I think the discussion has been positive and informative and helpful. The only thing I would add to this, just to reiterate that you have to assume that whatever the code currently allows on the property, or if we change the zone, whatever the zoning allows in the change zone is going to be on the property. So the question that we ask ourselves is always, when it comes to this kind of decision, is this the right time? And is this the right place? We just looked at the future land use map and decided that, yeah, this is probably the right place, but the question could be, because it's a follow-up question, is this the right place or the right time? And there are a number of reasons why it could or could not be. That's for the council to decide, but that's the question. Those are the two questions you really ask yourselves when it comes to this kind of zone change.
Do we have the applicant here? Is the owner here?
I don't see a representative from folks. We've had extensive meetings with the property owners and developers. So if you have questions for them, we as staff are happy to field them as best we can. And if you would prefer to table until the applicant can be here, that would be acceptable as well, if that's the direction you need to go on it.
I mean, I don't know what the other council members think, and maybe we'll table this, but I do have a question, specifically about the 0.95 acres of commercial use. Which lot number, parcel number, excuse me, which parcel number is divided up partially as RM15 and commercial use? And I mean,
I think it's a little easier to see on the map. I know Alicia's trying to pull that up. There is a parcel number that is closest to Main Street.
It's 11, I think, the one
is it
that I
11?
get 11. Yeah.
okay. So it's the last one. And how big is the parcel 11?
I believe that's the 0.95 acres.
So it is exactly 0.95 acres?
That's my understanding.
Okay, so why are we not changing that particular parcel to exactly what the designation needs to be? Why is it wrapped up into this RM15 motion and not specifically designated as a commercial, either CG or CN or whatever we decide? I mean, it just seems like to me that if we're going to make a motion and truly change what the zoning of these parcels are, I would prefer that we had that with a little more specificity.
Yeah, it's actually 1.7 acres, so it's quite a bit bigger than the 1 acre that they wanted up front for that.
Okay. I mean, you see what I'm saying, though? I mean, to make
Yeah.
it clean, I mean, you could do, because they own them all, you could do a lot line adjustment and carve out that 0.95 acres, and then we could designate that for this purpose. We could approve the other ones if we so choose and leave that one completely out, and it stays
It stays whatever the current
whatever
zoning
the
is.
current zoning is.
I think that was the ultimate desire of this, was to leave that northerly portion alone and with the zoning that it has, because if I'm not mistaken,
You see what I'm saying, though, because
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we just dealt with the quandary of what happened 20 years ago.
right,
And what if, and I think that they'll go through with this, but what if this goes defunct?
right,
What if something happens
sure.
and we didn't do our due diligence? We didn't do it right the first time. And so
Alicia, could you pull up that map that looks,
I agree.
it's the zoning map?
So.
It is, keep
I'll get
going.
here in a minute.
It's further up. I think it's up.
No, it's okay. We don't.
Yep, there it is. It's that one right there.
It's just messy.
Mhm.
So the purple in this is the commercial
Yeah.
and the white is the A10.
Half of that lot. It's half of that
And it does
Yeah.
split that
parcel in half.
parcel in half, the zoning. So what happens is, in that case,
Well, is that the general land use plan?
No,
or
this is-
that's
this is current zoning.
current zone? And that's because it's adjacent to Main Street, SR 138.
Right. And what they decided was that the first 200 feet away from or south of Main Street should be commercial. And beyond that, they just put A10. And A10, as we all know, is the kind of placeholder. We don't know what to zone it. We have to zone it something. It's A10. But it doesn't comply with any A10 zoning requirements as far as lot size, setbacks, any of that.
And maybe a good compromise would be to put a condition on this that states that the owner will do a lot line adjustment and designate the commercial lot, because it very well may be that they may not utilize that in their development. They may just want that. They're going to want to do that eventually anyways.
Right.
It's gonna need to be its own standalone lot. So, I mean,
But I really do think, and this is based on conversations I've had with the property owner, they want this entire parcel in a commercial / mixed use kind of setup. So they've got commercial on the first floor and then residential above or residential units behind.
so does RM15 give them that flexibility?
I think so.
Well, there's no thinking about it. I mean, does it or does it not? Because it seems like to me that mixed use designation would, but RM15, I don't know if it will or not.
Yeah. Well, RM15 does allow for higher density.
Yes, but does it allow for commercial?
No.
Okay,
So
well, I mean, I want to do it right. So, I mean, I think we should table this until we can just really nail it down. I think we hit the nail on the head with what we wanted to do with the general plan amendment. I think we're okay there.
Yeah.
And I think we're okay with, well, I think I am. I shouldn't speak for all of us. But I think we're okay with working with them and making, you know, this something that it isn't right now, right? But we should do it right.
So are you saying like you want to just do one portion that is only commercial and not do the mixed use and then the rest we would do? Is that kind of what?
Well, they're not asking for mixed use. If it's
asking for
RM15, it's not mixed use.
it's
I'm
high
saying
density.
commercially, I guess
front
the
lot.
front lot, you're saying should just be commercial.
Yeah, I would think that that's what they should do. I mean, yeah.
And if not, we ought to get a legal description that defines exactly where that changes from commercial to the mixed use to the south.
Yeah, it would make sense to me. At least we'd have that legal description, you know, in the motion and in the minutes, and we'd have some sort of legal standing in case something did go defunct and they sold it to someone else down the road.
And also like the way this is written, I feel like they could come back and be like, well, 0.95 acres are commercial. We can slap that wherever we want
Anywhere,
on those
right.
parcels.
Now,
And
it's kind of understood that that's gonna be along Main Street, but you're right, there's no legal guarantee or anything locked in there.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right.
If I were gonna make a motion, I would have said that 0.95 acres is specific
Yeah.
to that parcel. But,
The most northern part of the project.
but if their intention is to put commercial mixed in with the homes, that would be for the remainder of the parcels, then what they've applied for here doesn't make sense. So either they didn't understand what they were applying for, or we may have given them some misinformation. So maybe we should go back to them and just say, hey, we want to make sure that we nail this down.
I'm absolutely comfortable with that.
I guess the question is, and would remain, would, if we pivoted, would this come back to us or would it go back through planning and zoning?
It would come back to you guys. The planning commission has made a recommendation. Then we can take that and run with it.
Even though the necessary public hearing and all that would essentially change from what it was initially, from RM15 to mixed use? I think we should think about that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a matter of a process and procedure, but I think we probably should be careful.
It's fair.
So. All right. Sorry, I guess I really didn't want to list all those numbers out again.
Someone's gonna have to eventually.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we table ordinance 2026-05 approving the rezone from the A10 an R-1-12 to RM-15, multiple residential districts for the Apple Street Townhomes. Parcel 01-066-0-0006. Parcel 23-001-0-00A. Parcel 01-112-0-0012. And parcel 01-112-0-0011, located approximately Cherry Blossom Lane and Apple Street, excluding the 95.95 acres for commercial use.
We have a motion to table this item by Councilmember Dalton. Do we have a second?
I second.
A second by Councilmember Thomas. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will table that item. Item number 8, discussion and consideration of ordinance 2026-11, amending the Utah Inland Port Authority project area within Grantsville City.
Right, thank you again, Mayor. This is an item that is looking to amend by resolution, or we're actually making a recommendation that the Inland Port amend the project area for 20 wells to include the property just to the west of the Motorsports Park and south of the Romney Group property, which was to the north. So it's about 154 acres, and it's for discussion in the next couple of items for a future land use map amendment and a zone change as well. So this would enable the folks that own the property to seek infrastructure costs, not cost sharing, but some funding through the Inland Port to help with infrastructure costs. And so we do have a representative from the Inland Port here. And Stephanie, I know, is anxious to speak to you about the lovely Inland Port and how this might benefit the property owners and the city.
Yes, wonderful to see you all again. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak on this item. Our amendment process is fairly simple, but it all starts with a resolution passed by the local community. We really want these types of developments and these amendments to be driven by the legislative body for this community. And so we will work closely with the landowners on the needs that come from the development that they're proposing. We'll use the same mechanisms that we use in the other parts of the project area, though we will seek to isolate the increment generated in this project and reinvest it into this project. And similarly with the other developments that have been amended into the project area. This will be our second amendment to the project area. And we anticipate this, assuming this gets approved today by the city council, we can have this in front of our board as early as our March board meeting, which will be held on March 16th. Any questions that I can answer on the mechanism and on the opportunities afforded to the city to help with this development?
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's in regards to the taxes generated from the sites.
Mhm.
And how those are allocated and divided up amongst the city and your entity. Can you explain and just make sure that all 5 of us voting on this understand fully the implementation, but the implications, of potentially, and we're just looking at a conceptual design. We have some industrial flex space and grocery store and potential hotel, as I see on here, some retail space. And those are tax generating businesses that would in another piece of land or a land that may not be tied to this may flow differently to us than what they flow in with your, with this particular designation, so to speak. So could you explain that to us?
Absolutely. So the structure we use is a tax increment financing structure. We will freeze the existing tax base that is currently being, the revenue that's currently being generated on this particular site in perpetuity. So the taxing entities will continue to receive the existing tax base that it's generating today.
Which is nothing.
Which is not much, being an empty site. And so we will then use the increment to help finance infrastructure to this area. The great thing about our tool is that there's a flexibility element that I want to reiterate. We can trigger parcel by parcel. And so that means we can, this is just a conceptual plan. It looks like this will change and morph as the development matures. And so if there's an instance where it doesn't make sense to trigger a specific portion of this, the city can opt to not trigger that portion, and you'll receive that tax increment as needed. But the idea is that, this area doesn't have a lot of infrastructure to it. This mechanism allows us to leverage that tax increment to invest in things like roads, sewer lines, water lines. Similarly to the bonds you're issuing on that sewer project, we could issue bonds on this project as well to get some of that horizontal infrastructure in place, infrastructure that the city is going to be owning and maintaining in perpetuity anyway. So it just allows us to capture that future revenue that we don't have yet to create a development that can generate that revenue later. And so our project area term is a 25-year term. And the way the split between the project area and the taxing entities is a 75-25% split. So the taxing entities will continue to receive 25% of that increment over the life of that 25 years. That's in our statute. It's a flat rate, non-negotiable. And then 75% will go into the project area. The Utah Inland Port Authority captures 5% of that 75% for an admin fee. But that funds me being able to come into your community and support this project area and support this tool. And then the remainder remains here in the city to be put towards things like the infrastructure that I just outlined. We also have an incentive program that you can use it for as well. If there's a specific type of development that you want to incentivize, we can structure that using this tool. That's a post-performance tax rebate. That's how that incentive works. And so it's great for the city because it's post-performance. That company will need to come in and pay their taxes in order to get a rebate back. And so you don't have to pay them anything upfront. Those are a couple of the tools and how the tool functions. I think that's a great question. And that's how that financial piece is structured. In the instance where, there's no debt service any longer, we've paid off any debts on the property, we've paid back any bonds, we can terminate the project area early. In an instance where, nothing gets developed, the city can dissolve the project area, and nothing happens. So this really is a tool that the city drives, and you guide what that increment goes toward. One more thing on the fact that this is a mixed use development. There's some residential here, there's potential for commercial. Our project area does capture sales tax. Most of our project areas are largely commercial, industrial areas. Those don't generate a ton of sales tax. So it hasn't been an issue with some of our project areas. There have been some where there is some sales tax generated. In those instances, we create an interlocal agreement. We've actually shifted that to a simplified memorandum of understanding that we'll draft with the city, where we can pass through the sales tax revenue. So we just capture the property tax revenues on those developments. So you'll still get the benefit of that sales tax revenue. And, we'll just use the property tax revenues for the purposes of, paying for infrastructure.
So that was the reason why I wanted to get to that point.
Oh, to the sales tax piece.
Yeah, so I mean, let's just say, for instance, see that grocery store, let's say that is like a cost, right? And I mean, that's a big sales tax revenue base for the city. And yeah, to lose out on that would be massive,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So so if we can have that memorandum of understanding and parcel by parcel, decide, how things flow to us, either to the property tax and also the sales tax, then I think that's great.
Mhm.
So just want to make sure that there was no unintended consequences that happened from us annexing this into the inland core authority.
Yeah, we'd like it to be flexible for the city. And so, and we'd like it to be driven by the city. So you tell us where you want that money to go, and that's where we'll put it. And it's not going anywhere, we can't take it outside of the project area. And so anything that gets generated here will stay here.
And logistically, this area is carved out, right? Essentially carved out of the port. This 154 acres.
It's
If you
not
look
currently
at-
in the.
It's not currently in the
Yeah, I know,
project
but
area.
it's essentially carved out, because doesn't the port go all the way around it?
It's to the north and
Mhm.
west. It's to the east is the
The
motorsports
racetrack
park and
is
it's
right
not
here.
involved.
And it
Right.
doesn't have to be next to each other, because we have another
Mhm.
port area up on
Yeah.
Burmester.
Burmester, not
Right.
Burmester, but the Broken Arrow.
Oh, Broken Arrow.
Mhm.
Yep.
Right,
But
but
it
the
joins
property
it on the north.
primarily,
Correct.
yes.
The Romney's portion of it does, yes.
To the west of it, there's a portion
To
as
the
well,
west,
right?
yeah.
Just a little portion.
Mhm.
The Romney actual home development isn't for another couple parcels down the.
Right, and they also have the residential in their portion as
Which,
well.
yeah,
Mhm.
well, they do, don't they?
Across.
They do, I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yep,
So that's all a part of the Utah Inland Port.
right. So they have the same thing of a commercial as well as a residential factor. And I think they also have a commercial. I think there's a part of that land is commercial or retail
Yes.
area. So I think they would have all three components like they're requesting on this parcel as well.
And just to make it clear, Rhett's comment about the Costco was not an announcement.
No, but I just hypothetically, I didn't want us to, I want us to weigh out any potential unintended consequences, make sure we understand that. Our intention is not to lose out on any of that revenue.
Right.
That is,
We're not
that should be
like.
ours.
Right, and like she was saying, as you take it down, once they get a final plat or parcel area, you don't have to take down those parcels or ever do that. And so you could do certain ones and exclude the ones you don't ever want to take down in the area.
Or we can structure it where, we send you that sales tax revenue and we just isolate that property tax if we need it for bonding. Because our municipal advisor is Zion's Public Finance as well. And we work really closely with their team. And so, if we take a look at this site and we calculate how much it's going to cost us to get infrastructure out there, and, it'd be really, really nice if we had, more bonding capacity based off of the differential that's going to be generated. Then, that's might be something we need to discuss on how we can afford that. And, there's certainly a scenario where the tax increment isn't going to cover everything. And in that instance, it'll be a traditional development where the developer will have to come in and kind of bridge that gap. And so again, it's up to the city how we want to structure this and how we want to make that happen. In an instance where the property tax generated just by that industrial piece is plenty of bonding capacity to get infrastructure to that whole area, great, then we don't need to include some of those other pieces, and that can just be revenue that flows to the city.
I have a question, maybe it's, I don't know. So we have inland port funds on two sides of this property, right?
Mhm.
And they're putting in infrastructure. So let's just say the Romney Group or Lakeview Business Park is putting in a considerable sewer line or water line or something, using the funds generated from the inland port.
Mhm.
So it seems to me like the cost to put in infrastructure for this project is going to be much less because an adjoining property owner is already using inland port funds. So how does that work where there's two together, and then do we get a situation where they're both wanting somebody else to pay for something even though they're both getting funds from this? Is that a valid question?
Oh, no, it's a great question. Typically when a developer that's first in is, bringing out a lot of infrastructure that's going to benefit other neighboring developments, they'll often structure something like a pioneering agreement where, hey, we're first in, we footed the bill, we'd like to be reimbursed for those investments that we put in that are gonna benefit you down the line, right? That way it kind of shares the burden of that infrastructure across the developers.
Right, so
And
now they get money from this, so one group gets money from the other group because they had the pioneering agreement, and now that money just goes into their pocket, not back to you or not back to us.
So the way we're structuring it with multiple developers within our project areas is if public dollars are financing the infrastructure, there's no need to reimburse the developer for those funds, right? And so the idea is that neither of those developers are paying those costs. It's the new tax revenue generated. It's the public tax revenues that are paying for that infrastructure. So in that instance, it wouldn't be a scenario where, one developer is essentially double dipping
Right.
into that tax revenue. They just get the benefit of getting those costs covered up front. And same with any developer down the line, they don't have to make those same investments.
So that potentially could mean that the project is paid for sooner, and then that means that the tax increment funding could end sooner, and
Sure.
the property tax values could then come back to the city sooner, where we're kind of double using this area in infrastructure.
And one mechanism we could use, especially if there's enough synergistic infrastructure that needs to go in here, say a sewer lift station or, a water pipeline that's going to service both developments, we can create a public infrastructure district that is gonna, serve this whole region. They're in charge of going through and paying for that infrastructure build out, turning it over to the city. That way, those landowners don't have to, do that all themselves. They just leave it up to the public infrastructure district to put all that infrastructure in on behalf of both of those developments. And so, and that way they can also use both of the, increment revenues that are going to be generated in each of these areas simultaneously to get that regional infrastructure built. And so that could be a really great way of, essentially taking out two birds with one stone. And that's a mechanism that the inland port can sponsor. We can sponsor a public infrastructure district, but the city can also sponsor a public infrastructure district. There would need to be some collaboration between the developers, and I think that's something we can facilitate, especially if they're not going to be paying for that infrastructure that's going to be benefiting their development. I hope they would be willing to collaborate on that, and that can help us kind of beef up our bonding capacity for some of those bigger infrastructure lifts.
Thank you.
Good questions.
So do we
do we need this memorandum of understanding in place before we vote tonight?
Not necessarily, since we haven't triggered anything yet. Before, I would say we can put that in place before we trigger any of the project areas in Grantsville City. And when a project area is ready to be triggered, that's another thing we bring to the city council. So you tell us when you're ready to trigger. And, you know, obviously we'll come and bring an item to the city council to consider. But that's another piece that we're gonna work with you on. So today, no taxes are being collected in the project areas right now. And we can get that memorandum of understanding created pretty quickly. And so if the city council would like us to get moving on that, we can.
The other thing to keep in mind, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The other thing to keep in mind is that we don't know if there will be any sales tax generated on the property right now. It's all, these are, what you're seeing on the screen is not necessarily what will go in. I mean, we want it to, and that's what we hope for, but it could just be a bunch of office spaces and there are no sales on the property. So that's a big question mark as well. We would want to hold off on that MOU until we get a better idea of what's coming in and if they have retail type things going in on the property.
So I think just to go off Jeff's question, before you do anything, then you will bring it to us and then
Yeah.
we'll have that.
Yeah.
We'll get the memorandum of understanding at that time.
Yeah, so these boundaries have been established. We've recorded them with the county. No tax flow happens until we trigger the project area. And so, you know, the best time to trigger is when an improvement has happened, right? When, you know, a significant amount of infrastructure has come, that's changed the value of the parcel. Or if a building has been built, that changes the value of the parcel. That's probably the time we want to trigger. And so we're not quite there yet. That could happen soon, especially with, you know, these developers kind of ready to go. But we'll bring that to the city council to say, yes, trigger these parcels for this tax year. We'll do that usually the fall before the tax year that we want to trigger. So 2027 as an example, we would bring you a trigger resolution probably that fall of 2026 to say, hey, trigger these parcels for the 2027 tax year.
So can you tell me, what's the biggest benefit of us putting this into an inland port project area compared to going the traditional route where the developer comes in, does it the old way, they, you know, do the infrastructure and we reap the tax benefits 100% from day one?
I think it's a matter of, you know, can the developer finance the infrastructure lift? And if the developer can't finance the infrastructure lift, then the development doesn't happen. So this is just an opportunity for the city to help support development that you want to see through the mechanism of paying for that infrastructure up front. And, you know, it's a low risk way of financing that infrastructure since the growth is paying for the growth.
The other thing that's nice, and it's a benefit for the city, is that the inland port manages and takes care of all of these other financial transactions. And so that relieves some of the burden on city staff. If we were a large city that had a significant number of staff to handle things like RDAs and CRAs and all of these other tax increment financing areas, it would be less of a concern. But when it's just us trying to figure the things out and try to manage and maintain and wrangle funding and it becomes burdensome. And to have a partner with the inland port is really beneficial. The other thing is that it's a 25-75 split. The inland port takes 75%, but 25% stays local. In a lot of RDAs, you give all of the 100% of the tax increment goes to the RDA, and we don't get any of that. So it's structured in such a way that it's attractive for the city, it's attractive for property owners who need help with the financing, and it can be a very powerful tool. I do share the concern, and I think it's a valid concern. I'm not trying to disregard that at all. But it's something that can be a very useful tool in the right place. And the question in front of you tonight is this the right place?
I think another thing to consider, especially with an area as large as this that requires a significant amount of infrastructure based off of what's being planned out here. It's just a way for the city to right size the infrastructure for the development instead of kind of piecemealing it based on what the developer can afford. In most instances, a developer is only going to build, you know, the bare minimum of what they need for their development. And they, you know, in some instances, the city can go in a developer agreement, you know, request that they, you know, upsize some of that stuff for future development. But in this instance, it allows the city to plan for that future growth and, you know, make sure that the infrastructure that we're putting in today, you know, can really support what's going to come in the next 20 years.
So Bill, just educate me. So you said sometimes, you know, it goes through the RDA. We don't see any of that. Can you explain that process to me? Like how long? Is it forever? And who's the RDA in this situation?
So we don't, this area isn't covered by an RDA that I'm aware of. No. So this is just covered by the inland port.
The Romney's portion, above that is an RDA. It's split between an RDA and the port on that. So we do have an RDA in Grantsville in that regard.
But other places I've been, the RDA is a separate organization. It's really just the city council that functions in the role of the RDA. And they
Bill,
collect
can I
fund-
interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
Just for the public's knowledge, can you explain or just not use the acronym for
Yeah,
one
it's
side?
a redevelopment agency.
Thank you, so that everybody
And
understands.
they've changed it in the meantime. That's the one everyone's most familiar with. I think it's a CRA now. I feel like they change it every 6 months or something. It's CRA. It's a community reinvestment area or something like that. Anyway, these alphabet soup, what it means is that there's a separate entity that is still the city council, but you're functioning in the role of the redevelopment agency, and you collect funding that is the increment funding. And what you start out with is a base year. Right now, the property it's a field. You start with that base year that establishes a tax value. The city continues to get that value, whatever that is. It's not going to be much. Maybe, I don't know, $6,000 a year. I'm just pulling that out of the air. But that $6,000 will keep coming to the city. Any improvement on the property increases the value of the property, and that increases the taxes the county assesses against the property. That doesn't go to the city, it goes to the redevelopment agency. And the restrictions are that those funds can only be used for infrastructure on the property or improvements on the property as outlined in the redevelopment agency agreement and the establishing documents. So if there were specific infrastructure requirements that the city has, for example, roads, water, sewer, drainage, any of those kinds of things can be paid for through the redevelopment agency's funding. Okay. Essentially, that's all the inland port is doing. They're acting in the role of the redevelopment agency. So it's not the city that's getting the funding, it's the inland port.
But to answer the one part of your question, there is a time limit on it. It's not indefinite.
Yeah.
It's 20 years.
25 years for the port project
And that's
area.
typical for a redevelopment agency as well. There's a 25-year lifespan. Now, if the infrastructure gets paid back early, I don't know how it works. Do we just stop at that point with the inland port?
With the inland port, it would be a resolution from the city council to dissolve approval from our board.
So if the value of the property increases to the point where it's paid off early, we can get out of that obligation, and then the city gets 100% at that point. Other places that I've been, if you paid off early, the redevelopment agency stays in for a couple of years and uses those funds to help with other projects that weren't initially anticipated in the area. So you can keep using those funds in the area until the expiration of the redevelopment agency.
Our statute does allow us to extend up to 40 years in the instance where that might be
If we
necessary.
haven't paid back.
But
So unlike-
the beauty of this project, like the beauty of this tool is to really generate more revenue for the city. At the end of the day, that's the point, is to help create more tax revenue through the investment of infrastructure. And so, once the infrastructure is built and the debt's been paid, take all of that and that revenue back.
The other benefit is right now, we only get 13% of the property taxes. The rest of it goes to the school and the county. And so if you do and put it in here, that money doesn't go to the county or the school district, it would go to the property. So technically, then it would benefit Grantsville more so than it would if you didn't have an RDA or a port.
And that's the biggest difference between an RDA and a port project area. Is an RDA, you need to go through the process of establishing interlocal agreements with all of those taxing entities. This establishes a statutory project area of 75-25% split without the need of an interlocal agreement.
So 25% that we would get
Mhm.
doesn't go towards the school district, any
Oh.
of that, or is that?
So the
split up
20
at
yeah, the
25%?
25% would be split up,
It's
but the
split up.
75%
Okay.
would be.
So-
directly
Here.
to the
Yeah,
area.
well, that's my other concern. There's a biggest taxing entity. They raise our property taxes and it looks like we do it. We've talked about this. We haven't done it for years. If they're gonna get a 25% split, we're gonna get pennies on the dollar on that for 30 years. I'm worried property tax will go up more because of this project. If there's lots of residential, more population, schools, it's just gonna keep going up. So you gotta look at that aspect of it too, because they're not gonna want to wait 30 years to get their full value property tax,
Like this.
the school district.
Yeah, that's what's unique about this is you don't have to go ask their permission to do that. The port with the way the state legislature set them up is that you can do it without their permission. If you went through an RDA, you'd have to go to those entities and request their permission to allow them to do that in those.
No,
areas.
I get that we don't need their permission, but I'm saying they're gonna have a deficit now if there's residential units here. So I'm just looking outside the box, like what other ramifications could there be from going this route? So that's why I'm just trying to look at the whole thing and not just keep ourselves in this box.
Correct.
So.
And there are opportunities for us to carve out the residential as well, if it doesn't make
So,
sense.
I do have a question. I've looked it up and I know that like you guys, it's a 75-25 split. I thought that I read that you guys, there was a negotiation with like Salt Lake City on some stuff to get that split different.
Mhm.
Is that something you guys do open with other projects, or is that just something special with Salt Lake?
No,
The
it's
revenue's higher, tax revenue's higher than what we have.
No, it's an opportunity that we can look at, especially the way it works with Salt Lake City is we have an interlocal agreement with Salt Lake City. And so in an instance where, you have specific needs, I think with the residential, I think that's a great example. So in the instance where you have a lot of residential, it's bringing in a lot of kids, we want to support the school district, we can create an interlocal agreement between the city, between the school district to pass through their portion of that revenue on the residential piece. So they can have the revenues they need to support the residential that's coming into that area. So that's an example of a way we can carve out that tax differential. We're still covering our infrastructure costs that we issue to build this area out. But, we can utilize some of that to go back to the school district in that instance. So
The only
there's a
thing-
couple of options we can look at.
The only thing I would caution on that is that there's no free lunch. So if we're defraying some of the percentage because we need it or want it now for whatever reason, schools or whatever, it doesn't reduce the amount that we have to pay back to the developer for their infrastructure costs. So if it's 10 million to put the new infrastructure in, whether we pay that at 60% or at 75%, it's going to have to be $10 million. And so we're either on the hook for 25 years or 20 years under one scheme, but we'd be on for 40 years the other. It's like when the bank says you can skip December's payment. You're not skipping nothing. They're just putting that on the end, right?
Mhm. Yeah, it's a good thought, but and there's there's a scenario where, this goes way better than we imagined, we're paying off our bond payments just fine. And we have additional revenues coming in that, we don't have a direct use for, right? And so if there's anything extra, we'll work with you on figuring out beneficial projects that we can put that revenue towards. Obviously, the obvious choice, at least on the onset, is, pay off those bonds. But once those bonds are paid off, we're still getting revenue in, everybody else is covered. There's opportunities for us to see where we can put those dollars for beneficial use. So
That's when it
Well,
really
we-
gets fun, actually.
it's really
It's like
exciting.
fun money.
With Salt Lake City, for example, we just commissioned $2 million to go to their law enforcement, and that's an ongoing 2 million every year, based off of the tax revenues that are generated in the project area. And so, that's really exciting, and it's great for Salt Lake City, because instead of that going into the general fund, kind of going into the normal places where it typically goes when it just gets directly dispersed to the city, they can kind of say, okay, where is the biggest need in the city? Let's look at some special projects that are going to make a big difference. So yeah, that is where it gets fun. We've done the same thing with wetland projects. And that's something we'd like to partner with Grantsville on. We have, because of your proximity to the lake, we'd like to set aside, and in our governing documents when we first created it, we've set aside 1% to go towards wetlands projects. And so we'll be working with the city on making sure that, we're good stewards of those sensitive areas within the project area boundaries.
A lot of those areas are not part of Grantsville City yet.
Yeah,
It's a discussion that was had yesterday.
it's coming.
Can I just make sure something else is clear in my head? I've been trying to think of how to summarize this question, just quality of work.
Mhm.
Quality of work on this infrastructure.
It's a good question.
Help me follow it up, just who's responsible? Is there who's ensuring the quality of work in the roads, the infrastructure? Who's responsible for that?
That's a great
I mean, one of
question.
the frustrations is redoing new roads.
Right.
You can go a
Mhm.
million different ways with that. So who's in charge?
That's a great question. In the instance where, there's a couple of ways that I've seen it done. One, the developer is responsible for building that infrastructure, and then they pass that over to the city once it's completed. That's typically how development goes. In that instance, we would use these funds generated to, reimburse the developer for those qualifying expenses. Qualify being, it's regional in scope, it's public infrastructure, et cetera. We can also structure it with a public infrastructure district. The public infrastructure district can be the entity in charge of, financing, planning for building that infrastructure, turning it over to the city, to the public utilities, for ongoing maintenance of those assets. If there's issues with the quality of that infrastructure going in, I think that's something that, we'd like to work with the city on ensuring gets built right and gets built right the first time. With the access to capital that we have with these mechanisms, hopefully it makes it a little bit easier for us to afford that quality work, and work with the developers on getting those right entities in place. A public infrastructure district could be a good way to go. Since they're technically a public entity, they have to go through the procurement process to get that work done. So they have to get a number of bids, they have to, issue it to the right bidder, and, based on price and based on their fitness to executing that work. So that's a way you can assure some quality. Whereas a private developer can kind of go with whatever builder or construction firm they want to. So creating a public infrastructure district can give you just that much more oversight.
So then just thinking that through, so if you run in, maybe you're probably not old enough for this, but if you run into, we're delaying this income for 25 years, you get 20 years into this and roads need to be widened, traffic lights need to be added, and there's no money coming to the city yet. Like how does that happen at that particular point?
So assuming 20 years in, we still haven't finished paying off bonds. You know, the options become pretty limited until those bonds get paid. There is an option to extend the life of the project area and pay for those upgrades utilizing those added years. These are great questions.
Yeah, very good questions.
Did Salt Lake City grill you like this?
So there's some history there.
Well, I'm sure. I do have just, I think we probably need to move on, but I just have one more question. How unique is I mean, I'm just thinking of the Utah Inland Port Authority. How unique is a mixed use type development like this in the grand scheme of things with all the different locations you have across the state?
Yeah.
Do you have other ones that are like this, or is this a unicorn? Is this unique?
So we do have other mixed use developments. Most of them are in rural Utah.
Okay.
And so, you know, I think for the reasons we've talked about, you know, there's pros and cons to adding things like residential to these project areas. You know, in an instance where there's a big infrastructure lift, you know, it can pay off. But often, you know, residential doesn't generate as much in property tax revenue as something like commercial or industrial does. So, you know, in that instance, it's rare to include things like housing in a project area like this. It's not unprecedented.
Okay. Just didn't want us to be the only one.
And, you know, one thing that we can do with members of the city council or with staff is we can connect you with our other project areas that are doing similar developments and you know, how they're managing their project areas. In fact, we've invited staff to come and Mayor Hammond to come to an event we're hosting next month, which is exactly that. It's we're calling it our Congress of Ports, where we bring all of our project area stakeholders together from across the state to talk about, you know, unique aspects of each project area. Each one is unique. Each one is asking for different types of infrastructure, different amounts of money. Some of them are really, really massive. Some of them are really, really small. And so it's just an opportunity for everyone to kind of educate on, okay, how are you using the tool? How are you implementing it? What should we be thinking about? And we anticipate that that'll add a lot of value to the stakeholders that are involved in our project areas. So that's a good question. How did I do?
So good,
Great.
as always.
Thank you. Thanks, City Council.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So are we supposed to vote on this tonight or just, are we discussing? We're discussing and voting.
It's a, yes.
Consideration.
I wish we could have done this after, so we could kind of get an idea of maybe what might go here. After what the next two items are.
They do all kind of go together. I mean, they do go together. So. All right, I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2026-11, amending the Utah Inland Port Authority project area within Grantsville City.
We have a motion by Councilmember Butler. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Councilmember Skinner. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. Motion passes. You need me to do a roll call on that? Rhett,
Yay.
Jake,
Yay.
Derek,
Nay.
Brittany,
Yay.
Jeff?
Nay.
Did you get that, Alicia? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item number 9, discussion and consideration of ordinance 2026-10, approving a general plan amendment to change the land use designation from rural residential 2 to mixed use density for certain properties known as the Crossing at Willow Creek subdivision, as stated in the agenda. And I'm not sure who is presenting that. Is
It's
that
me
you as
again.
well, Bill? Boy,
Yep.
you're gonna.
It's nights like this, I really miss Shelby.
Yeah.
Shelby, if you're listening, I hope you get feeling better soon now. Purely selfish reasons. No, I do hope she gets feeling better. So this is property that we've just looked at with regard to the inland port. Again, the same kind of discussion and understanding with this as with the other future land use map amendment that we discussed about how to amend the general plan. And the question again is this the right time and is this the right place? So don't have much more to add to that than this. That this property is larger, obviously, than the one at the end of Apple, and that this represents a mix of uses. The other thing I would caution you, and again, these folks have given us a lot more detail as far as potential site layout and uses and things like that. Don't get too bogged down into that, because like last night when we discussed this, one of the questions was, what are we going to do with the traffic? Well, we don't know, because we don't know what it's going to look like yet. There has been some study done on that, and we're working with UDOT to put a light down on 121, or excuse me, 112. And so we'll work with that and through that when that comes online. But the rest of the site layout, the configuration of the buildings, the parking, the trees, don't get too fixated on any particular item that way, because it's TBD.
That'll all be nailed down in the MDA.
Correct. That'll be nailed down in the MDA, and you'll have a look at that before it passes as well. So we do have representatives from the developers and property owners here. If you'd like to ask them any questions about any aspects of the proposal or the application, and otherwise, the planning commission saw this last night and voted to recommend approval.
Would anybody like to speak with those who are here developing it, or do we have any questions, or is somebody ready to make a motion?
Is our general plan, does it currently cover this? There, the other one was so clear. Does our general plan cover this area currently?
It does.
And has it as?
Rural residential 2.
That's the blue, I assume.
No, that's the zoning.
That's the zoning. It's the one just up from there. Yep.
So just explain that map to me quickly to make sure I understand. This is our current plan.
Mm-hmm.
That has, and the blue's our property area.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So green is,
It's the Deseret Peak planning area, but it is covered by rural residential type designation out there.
Which again may not fit with the whole designation of the Romney Group Industrial all around this whole area.
Right.
So it almost makes sense that we do change the general plan to match more of what's already been approved and what's already been kind of platted out and assigned with the Romney Group kind of thing. So this may be fixing an issue because you necessarily don't want a house or a farm out there surrounded by massive industrial buildings per se like that.
They're just not compatible uses.
But yeah, that's what's being proposed is residential right in the middle of industrial.
Different kind of residential in that regard, because this is more of they'd be expecting that kind of a thing, because if you had like the racetrack with other things there, because if you have industrial or high density housing type thing, then they may be moving there because of the track or other amenities that are there to have that ability. And so again, it creates a unique island that I think Grantsville might be able to take advantage of, is because it is surrounded by that industrial area. And some of those industrial areas you don't normally see the smaller houses. You usually see more of a higher density type thing. And so Grantsville is lacking that in our city right now. But again, in this area, it kind of makes sense because it will be buffered by the Romney's group and the track. And so it really won't feel like a big change once all that build out of the Romney group is there.
So educate me on what the Desert Peak planning area is.
So the Deseret Peak planning area is just an area that is surrounding the Deseret Peak complex down there. And it is indicated on the future land use map as being things that are anticipated to be in the area and to kind of grow up and develop with and support that. So again, I'm not sure when this planning area was designated and when it came online. As mentioned earlier, the only time that you would want to change a future land use map like this is when the area has all changed around it. And it's time to look at it and say, do we really want 2 acre, half acre little ranchettes out there in the midst of the motorsports park and the Romney Group rail lines and industrial areas? Does that make sense? Or does something like this, where it's a more close, compatible and complementary, not complimentary, but complementary use on the site, is this a higher, better use of the land? And that's the question that we're looking at tonight.
And isn't a large portion of this land zoned A10?
I think it's all A10.
All A10.
If you look on the zoning map on the next page,
Right,
it's all,
right, it is.
yeah.
So the designation and 10 and 11 are all A10.
This may be a dumb question, but is this the same map we were looking at? It's the same area we're talking about that we were talking about in the.
Not a dumb question, and yes.
Oh my God, this map is in both of the one I want to make sure I'm looking, so we really need to zone this differently to get this project done.
Yep.
Right.
And
So-
there are no dumb questions. That's great.
Like, the map was the same, so I'm like, I'm not great with maps.
Just so everyone understands, rural residential -2, because we don't have this in the packet necessarily underneath this agenda item, is residential use with applicable rural land uses, allowing 1 dwelling unit per 5 to 10 acres. That's what rural residential 2 stands for in our future land use map, not zoning.
So it's somewhere between an A10 zone and,
A 5.
yeah.
On R5. So, I mean, there's something pretty, I mean, for me, with the map you just showed us, which is the page before in page 7, that we need to address is that we're just talking about the blue area today. But the other green area to the northwest is all part of the Bromley Group as well, which is all a part of this inland port, which is part of their industrial, and it is not designated, from what I can tell. It's not designated for that particular use. It's not gray, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And then further down the road is the other aspect of, right?
I think,
Or am I thinking about that wrong?
no, you're right. I think as Bill pointed out, we did put in for a grant to redo our general plan, and that's what would help fix some of these issues there, because I don't think we've updated our general plan in a while. So this would help, would target those areas and kind of make them align with what's currently there or in the plans of being there.
And to be clear, the designations on the future land use map or in the general plan are not legally binding. No entitlements are associated with it. They're aspirational, and there are projections that go out 20 years. A lot can change in 20 years. So if this map was adopted 20 years ago, we're in a very, very different place in 2026 than we were in 2006 in a lot of different ways. The other thing to keep in mind is that the zoning does not have to necessarily meet exactly in every case what the underlying future land use map indicates should be there. So just the fact that this is indicated as a green area, not a gray area, doesn't necessarily mean that there's something legally wrong or challengeable about our zoning map. It just doesn't match up. And
Yeah,
that
I think we
happens a lot.
understand that. I mean, this is something that, I mean, I'll be honest, we really didn't address and do prior to you coming. So, yeah, I think it's good to amend it and to make it match what its zoning is potentially going to be, right?
And
So-
it could be that I don't foresee this being a reality, but it could be that in not in this instance, but in a different instance, you want to keep the future land use map the same, but you can change the zone. Legislative decisions are not based on a significant burden of proof. You can just, it's the reasonable person test. If a reasonable person look at the decision that was made and say that it was a reasonable decision based on the information that was given, that's fair enough. There's no preponderance of evidence that's required. There's no, there's no record or anything. It's a legislative decision. So very broad discretion is given to city councils and to planning commissions to make these kinds of decisions. That's would be weird, but it's certainly something that could be possible, that you make a decision not to change the future land use map, but to, in fact, change the zoning designation of a property.
Does anyone have any additional questions, or do you have anything you'd like to ask the developers?
So I'm just putting you two on the spot, so both of you feel like this is a good thing for us to amend the general plan.
I do. I feel like with the Romney group that's already there, I think it would match the area a whole lot
In
better.
your opinion.
Correct.
I concur, of course, wholeheartedly. No, I think this is planning decisions always come down to what is the highest and best use of the land. And frankly, 5-acre ranchettes, 10-acre ranchettes down on this 150 acres is not necessarily the highest and best use of the land. Now, you're the legislative body. If you make a decision that says, no, we want it to stay, then that's the instructions we have from you. But since you've asked our opinion, I agree with Michael that this is not the highest and best use of the land as it's currently designated.
You both realize I'm a farmer, right?
Well,
I'm just kidding. I'll answer that.
This ground's never been farmed.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
it might have been
It's gonna be
ranched or
between the
something.
the racetrack and an industrial space. I don't know
Yeah.
if you're gonna wanna have a bunch of cows in between.
They're probably pretty
racetrack
good at
and
growing
industrial.
rattlesnakes, I guess.
I make a motion.
Okay,
Mayor, I make a motion, we move to approve ordinance 2026-10, approving the general plan amendment to change the land use designation from rural R2 mixed use mixed use density for certain properties known as the crossings at Willow Street subdivision, parcel
01-130-001-130-00008
and 01-130-00016 and 01-130-0014, approximately 154 acres, and that is a tongue twister.
We have a motion by Councilmember Thomas. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
A second by Councilmember Skinner. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. We'll move on to item number 10, a discussion and consideration of ordinance 2026-09, approving a rezone of the parcels listed on the agenda from A10 agricultural to the mixed use district for crossing at Willow Creek subdivision, resulting in approximately 102.4 acres being zoned MU. Bill.
Again, don't have much more to add to the conversation. I think it's been really, really good. I love the questions. You guys are thinking, and you're thinking the right way about these things. And please do just continue to think about this. One of the things that was brought up last night was that we don't have a good description for where these parcels want to be parceled out with regard to the zone. And so it was brought up that we could potentially have a motion to approve the zone changes with the stipulation that before it gets recorded, that they provide us with a legal description of the property they want to be in each zone. If you feel comfortable with that, staff can follow up on that for you and with you. And we can take care of that. Or if you would prefer to table, that's something that's in your purview as well. So whatever you'd like to do with that, we do have, again, the developers here. Part of the problem with the meets and bounds description that they're looking at is that they're not sure exactly either where they want things to go at this point. So they're pushing this through with the land use, with the zone change in an effort to secure some funding and to help get some investors and other folks that have access to events and arenas and other kinds of fun things that could be coming online. And they have to be, time is of the essence on some of those things. And so they're hoping for a decision tonight if we can get to a good place with it, and then they can go start farming this thing out a little bit more hard.
Would anyone feel more comfortable with the rezone, hearing an explanation from the developers, or you have a pretty good idea from what we have been presented?
Derek and I listened to it all yesterday, so.
I mean, I have a question. If they want to come up, I do have a question. They can clear things up for me. So, just on the, I know,
They need to state their name.
sorry, yeah, state your name, please.
Troy Darger. Kevin Mons.
Win Rasband.
Okay, so on this item, we're talking about the mixed use zone, and I know you're in the very beginning of it. But do you have a ballpark or an idea of how many acres of that MU you plan on doing commercial?
Yeah, let me grab my paper real quick.
Yeah.
Got it right down. So this is preliminary. We've been in discussions with Inland Port, with many within Grantsville City as well. So currently, as it's drawn, and again, this is in flux, we do have certain concerns, and one of those concerns is, truck access, where that's going. Is it going in front of multifamily? We would rather not go there, but we're still trying to work through that plan and how those trucks enter into an egress from that site without disturbing the residential component of that. But right now, I can hand out some copies of these. These are the square footages and the acreages of the parcel as it's currently shown. Again, this is preliminary. As we were speaking with Bill about the meets and bounds. Ultimately, we need to.
Could you get one to Alicia, actually?
Yes. Ultimately, we are very flexible and want to work with Grantsville City so that they are achieving the ultimate goal of this property, as well as, you know, any investment with Inland Port or any other investors that come along that we're giving them the proper attention. So there have been things that we have discussed with the city already, such as access to the Deseret Peak complex, trails over there, shuffling around, whether it's a hotel component, a grocery component, multifamily. We talked about, you know, an ice rink potentially. We've been in contact with all of those individuals and companies. And now we're just trying to determine how that all fits. So we're just kind of looking at it as a puzzle piece and trying to determine what fits best where. And so that is one of the leading criteria is that access, that truck access to those, you know, mixed use buildings behind. You know, they're small storage units. They're not competing with Romney. They're more, they're accentuating Romney's property and ultimately the Deseret Peak complex there. So that's really our biggest goal right now is to try to make that all work. And there's going to be some shuffling at this point still to make sure that we're giving the proper attention to all the components.
So on this that you handed out, Flex 1, Flex 2, can I assume that that's going to be in the MG zone for the next one?
Yeah, so that's all in the back, right there on the
Okay.
north side. And
So-
that's,
Yeah, so just the reason why I asked about the MU zone, our ordinance right now, it says that, you know, all properties over 1 acre or greater shall include at least 50% of the land area as commercial. So that's why I was getting at how much of that area is gonna be commercial. It does say fronting the major street, but it says 50% of the land area. So that's why I was asking if you were aware of that in our ordinance, because that's a lot.
me personally, no, but I'll work with Bill and our other owners and make sure that we're accommodating that.
Those things will be worked out in the MDA when it gets to that point.
I just want to ask if they're aware that they knew
Yeah,
knew
no,
that, so
absolutely.
I know there'll be lots of talks between now and then, but just get it out there. So, okay.
So currently, right now, this is agriculture like the other one was, but what, 10 acres or whatever you said?
A10.
A10, yeah. Like
It's all
that.
intent.
Yeah.
Only.
Okay.
You know, this looks really familiar to the discussions we had with the Deseret development. I mean, this looks a lot like an overlay district. I mean, and that was all zone mixed use up there, the whole thing. And then they came and did an overlay district, albeit, you know, this is smaller than what that was or is. So.
That certainly may be a possibility. We could look at that as another tool of flexibility and additional regulation, I guess, on the property, if that's the way that it feels like it's the best way for the property owners and the city to go with it. An overlay district is really helpful in locking in what everyone's expectations are on the property. You start with a base zoning, which would be a mixed use or a manufacturing type thing, and then you kind of expand on it from there. They get something, we get something, everyone's equally disappointed with the outcome. So that's
Come on.
Are we, is UDOT limited to the location, the signal location? I know you
After
did
they
mention,
signed your corridor agreement, the last time we signed that, so that solidified where those lights are gonna be.
That's almost exactly where it's located. I mean, it looks like to me that's where it's located,
Yeah.
what they gave us.
yeah, I was just gonna say this,
Take into account the UDOT study and those were added in the location.
yeah, I was just trying to see if there's an opportunity to mitigate, you know, if you could put trucks that are going to the back to your flex area on the end of the property, so you bypass,
On the west end.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I was,
nice thing isn't the goal or the hope
there's
to have
another one right there,
the
yeah.
road go through Romney's also.
Yes, there would be some interconnection between this property
Between
and
this
the
property and
Romneys
the adjoining
to the
property.
north, so.
Okay.
So they
Yeah.
could technically access from Sheep Lane, is that correct?
Or they get access from just
112.
outside the west end of where the sheet shows. There is another light there that UDOT has designated
Just
that
just
goes
slightly
into
down.
there.
We'll work through all of those things. The interconnectivity it's a big deal for me personally, so. Yeah.
Sorry, time's up. I guess we get more. Is that your bedtime alarm?
I wish. I don't sleep.
You're definitely not gonna sleep after tonight. I guess, do we really need to zone this? I mean, the next item is to zone the same parcels that we have or that we're gonna zone MU. It goes back to our other discussion earlier
Sure.
today, right? You kind of brought it up. You approached the elephant in the room. But do we even need to zone it MU if the intention, and I hate to use that word, if the intention is to place an overlay district over the top of it? Could we make it so that, and I'll just throw this out here. I mean, I don't really want to zone this MU and then you guys turn around and say, well, yay, we've got the inland port. Now it's all zoned MU and we're gonna sell it tomorrow. And I don't know if we can put some stipulations on it that state that, you know, we would like to see this conceptually what we have here, not to the T, but that the intention is that we have an overlay district here. So I don't know if that's even.
I think
If
that's
not.
exactly what you're saying to the property owners, is that by changing the zone to a mixed use zone, the intention is on both parts is to proceed forward with either an overlay zone or a development agreement or both that governs the ultimate disposition of this property.
So to my point, why do we need to approach item number 11
Well, it's
at all? Other than
we may
it was
not.
discussed.
We may not. So if your goal is to change everything to a mixed use zone and then do an overlay over the top of it that helps to define where the light industrial areas are going to go, we can deal with that. And I think that you guys could understand that, and the development agreement would govern all of that anyway. Because a development agreement can and usually does govern what uses go on in the property and where. So that would be something that we could negotiate even further. This was the request, was to have the 50 acres be in the manufacturing and then the other 100 acres in the mixed use. That's just based on the rough proportions of what the applicant has given to the city to look at. So it's completely up to your discretion.
Is that client interest driven? Or is that 50 acres, is that, I mean, or the flex areas, are those driven by interest? I'm just trying to determine,
think
like,
they've
is that
Yeah, I think
line
they've got.
fixed or drawn, or can it be, you know,
I think they've got people in line for
Flexible.
occupying these spaces.
yeah,
There-
Okay.
There is interest, it is.
it's not that I have an issue with it. I'm
Yeah, it
just
is a
was
component
wondering,
as well with the inland port to get that.
Like
inland port,
flexibility.
Yeah, funding.
Okay,
But it does accentuate, if you look at the Romney property, all those they're 1,000,000 square foot warehouse spaces.
yeah, it does
And
timeline.
these are much smaller that, you can ultimately have last night there was discussion about businesses growing and ultimately having a small warehouse and a storefront, and that's what these could potentially be. And we've had people approach us already, on either building or renting, those spaces back there. So there is interest. But it does fit in with kind of the overall scheme and plan of the area.
Yeah.
So
My
the
concern was
the
just that
function of
this would get-
zoning these as what they are, though, would be to set a rough proportionality between the different kinds of uses and establish a baseline to say, as you move forward into the MDA, let's look at this property developing out as roughly 1/3 or 50 acres in a manufacturing type use, and then the other 100 acres in the retail and the residential areas.
With the stipulation that the manufacturing is in the north portion of the property.
Correct.
Okay. I don't know if I like that, because then, if we're making this agreement with you, but if, something changes hands and we zone it to this whatever, then who's, say that they're gonna follow what we wanna do, or, I mean, I'm not saying you guys will, but we've seen it happen before, and so
For sure,
we
yeah.
hope it doesn't, so.
Aren't we trying to match this with what's around it? That's what we're saying or would we want to keep it at the
I think,
culture?
yeah, I mean, conceptually, I like this. My concern is, we go MU and then it all becomes multifamily. Like, obviously,
Right.
Well,
obviously,
portion of it's gotta be commercial.
yes.
Yeah.
It's written- yeah,
So-
it's
It's in the
written
code.
It's written
They
in,
have plenty there.
yeah. And I, like I say, I like
Great. You like it.
the way that it's laid out, like the hotel, like a hotel on that roadway, rec center in that area, grocery in that area, along that roadway that's gonna widen and become 2 lanes. It makes perfect gas station. I just wouldn't want to sacrifice that. And an overlay district would allow us to go through that approval process, correct, to ensure that,
That's gonna be there.
so.
And we added the housing at the city's request.
Yeah.
I
And
think
had
that's a,
people very interested in it.
I think it's a good place for townhomes. We don't have a lot of townhomes in the town.
It would be cool. One of the things we talked about was if you've got a Lamborghini or something and you park it in your garage here, and then you have a direct connection out to the track, and so you just go do track day right there.
Just drive my Lamborghini. over.
I'll just do that as well.
Yeah.
Which the track was very interested in that.
The struggle is which Lamborghini do you bring, right? You bring the red one or the black one? What are we
There's
doing?
gonna be no one that owns a Lamborghini that's gonna have a spot there. Come on. They're not gonna have a condo. They're gonna be in Park City. They're gonna drive it down here and race it around the track. I don't know. Each their own. Okay, it's possible. Just once again, I just question whether, our approach is. I'll ask you guys a specific question. Was this approach, was this your idea, or was this staff that proposed to you, this is the way we should go about this?
We've been through several different, city groups. We've owned the property, at least part of the property since 2007. So we've been through multiple rounds of talking with the city and negotiating, and new people have come and gone. Ultimately, we came with a plan and just kind of sat down with Shelby, and I'm not sure if you were involved at that point, but we sat down with Shelby and some of the city people and ultimately kind of pushed the plan in front and said, what do you think? And so there was some back and forth and compromise, and it really is, we're very open book, and it really is, we're trying to do the very best thing for Grantsville City, and have a project that Grantsville is excited about and we're excited about, and other people could be as they come in and purchase components of the property or can use the facilities, whether that be complementary to Deseret Peak or to the city itself. So it really was, sitting down and saying what is best for Grantsville. And so we've made changes based upon those conversations, so that, again, the city is happy with what ultimately is going to go in. As Troy was saying, initially, we did not have multifamily in. We were just concerned about the racetrack, but there are, construction methods to mitigate some of that noise. and make it more quiet. Mr. Williams, to address one of your previous questions about quality, I'm in the construction industry. I've been in it since 2000. And very typical in a situation like this is we're going to get city and county standards, and the owner or developer is going to pay for a third-party testing agency to come out. So it will be built to the city or county standards, and that third-party tester who we will pay for will make sure that it's built to those standards. And so it should be integral and seamless to what's already there.
But it's in its infancy. So, I mean, I'm just curious, Tyson, is there any way we could tie some sort of time frame to the approval? I mean, I'm just thinking outside the box here, that we come into some sort of agreement with an overlay district and an MDA within a certain time frame, and if not, then it reverts back to A10. Is that even a possibility? Just
That doesn't strike me as something that I've seen happen. It doesn't mean it's not possible. If it's within our code, we probably would need to make an amendment to our own land use code in order to affect that. If we had that mechanism built into our code, then I believe that we could. Right now, we don't have that provision. It's something that could be built into an NDA. Of course, that's sort of what we're trying to accomplish, to enter into an NDA.
I can speak to that just a little bit. I have seen it other places and it's been tried, and the enforcement on the other side is extremely difficult.
I'm sure.
And not really worth a whole lot. So.
I mean, the world's full of good intentions, right? But we could pass this tonight. It could be partial MU, partial MG, and things could fall apart tomorrow, right?
And there is
Yeah, I mean,
100%.
there is a cautionary tale. When I was in Pleasant View, there were some folks that showed up and they were doing low income housing. And they promised that along Highway 89 there in Pleasant View that they would put in some commercial, and the MDA that they signed between the developer and the property owner and the city never explicitly said that the commercial would ever go in or what it would look like. So when the city said, hey, you're getting to 75% done, when are you going to do the commercial? And the developer's like, oh, we're not going to do any. And they went back to the development agreement and it didn't say you have to do it, even though everyone understood and it was promised in meetings and all these things. But because it wasn't written down, when we got to the other side, we didn't get any commercial. And they went to the courts, and the court said, no, you didn't say it, you didn't do it. It's not writing, it's no good. So
I think we've done a good job, at least since I've been in to vet those things. And so
just a cautionary tale.
Absolutely.
Under this zoning, though, there is required commercial under the mixed use, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
So that would take care of it.
50% along all major streets. Which
Well, we've debated that in
I
planning
know we have.
commission.
Is
It
it
says-
just SR 138?
Well,
Or is it
but
the
also it's,
secondary and the primary road? As
it
well?
also says just the land, the land area. So yeah, I don't like the MU.
Well, again, the power is that it establishes a baseline that we can then work off of to flesh out in an MDA that would be beneficial for everybody.
Okay.
Anybody like to make a motion?
Well, one thing before
Okay,
we
yeah,
keep
please.
going. So if I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, because we've gone through this MU a lot with planning commission and changed a lot of things. And I'm trying to see if I can find it, but if I remember correctly, apartments weren't permitted in the MU. It was only townhomes. Am I remembering that wrong?
Well, I don't remember just off the top. I'm
I'd
sure
have to
Shelby would if
Look at
she's
the
here.
code, but Cause it just references single family and twin homes in here.
But if they came back and did an overlay district, then that changes it
Yeah,
as well.
yeah,
So
if they went that route, but if
that-
it's,
that would be the best
if it's just MU, I mean, I could be wrong, cause like I said, we've changed this so many times and.
So it'd be the mixed use district.
Yeah, it's chapter 19A. I mean, it does say in there are many different housing styles, but then when you go down to look at like lot sizes and setbacks, all it references is single family homes and twin homes.
Yeah, and it does say in permitted uses, 19A.2 permitted uses, this district shall allow single family and townhome residential developments. It doesn't say apartments.
So then that makes us want to do the public or the overlay district. To get those, because there are.
which they can come back and do that after it's
Yeah,
zoned MU.
I just,
Yeah.
I remembered that, so I wanted to bring that up. Okay. Thanks for your patience.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for retaining it.
All right. I don't have any more questions. Someone else does.
Yeah, if there's no more questions, would anyone like to make a motion? Thank you.
So if we make this motion, this only includes 102 acres, and you thought maybe not do the MG motion, is that right?
Yeah, or I was actually debating on whether or not to make one motion, both ordinances, so that they're both tied together.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, if we leave that out, then there's 51.6 acres hanging out there that is still A10.
I mean, I guess it's a matter of. Is there any reason why we can't make a motion to approve or deny or take two ordinances in one fell swoop?
No, as long as you describe it with the accurate descriptions on the agenda.
No, because they're both, I would like to have them both tied together.
Yeah, I can see the value in that.
It might be semantics, but I think time to put it together. So Mayor, I make a motion, we approve ordinance 2026-09, approving a rezone of parcels 01-131-0-002 and 01-130-0-009 and 01-130-0-0008 and 01-130-0-0016 and 01-130-0-0014 from the A10 agricultural designation to the mixed use MU for the crossings of Willow Creek subdivision, resulting in approximately 102 acres being zoned MU. And also tied to this motion, approve ordinance 2026-08, approving a rezone of parcels 01-130-0-0008, 01-130-0-0016, and 01-130-0-0014 from the A10 agricultural designation to the general manufacturing MG district, resulting in approximately 51.6 acres being zoned MG. Noting that these parcels have multiple zoning designations tied to them. And that is my motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Butler. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Councilmember Skinner, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, or are you still thinking?
No, I thought we were gonna have a discussion after the motion. I just don't like to I don't like to just say 51.6 acres is gonna be MPMG without knowing where those acres are gonna be located.
In
Not
my
that-
mind,
In our minds and where it's gonna be, where they show us, but like I said, who knows if this passes hands and then we've got this open approval that the next person can come in and put it wherever they'd like, because it's zoned both.
in my mind, the 51.6 acres that are tied to the parcels that my motion just included, the designation is there for that portion of those parcels. So
So 2 and 9 are left out, so
Mhm.
it can't be
2 and 9 are designated mixed use,
mixed use.
but the others are partially mixed use, or maybe even majority mixed use and partially MG.
Okay, I just looked at those parcels, okay. Yeah,
Okay. That passes unanimously. Thank you. So we'll now skip to agenda item number 11, a discussion and consideration of,
I actually already took care of it. I just took care of 10 and 11 both at the same time.
right, so I was skipping to 12.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay.
You said 11 though.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant 12. I'm reading 12, but I said 11. I'm
Okay, so
sorry.
Groundhog Day was Monday. Let's don't do that last
Let's
25
not.
minutes.
No. Agenda item number 12, discussion and consideration of ordinance 2026-07, amending chapter 8 of the Grantsville City Code to add micro entrepreneurship as a conditional use.
All right. Again, I really miss Shelby on my side tonight. She does such a good
She
job.
really just called in sick because she knew what was coming.
Right? She really does such a good job, and I miss her, especially on nights like tonight. So this is an item that would change the zoning code for the city to allow for a new use, and this is called micro entrepreneur. And it would allow for micro business. It allows for something that lies between a home occupation and a regular retail type establishment. So the function of a home occupation is that it's in an existing residential area and it flies below the radar to the extent that you would never really know that that home occupation was going on. They don't get any extra businesses or deliveries. They don't get customers on a regular basis that come to the place. It's just something that the example I like to use is my sweet mother, who has a quilting long arm machine, and she does quilts for people. And they show up and bring her the fabric, and she works on it for a couple days, and she calls them up, says, "Come get it." They arrive, they pay her, and she, they drive away happy. You would never know that my mother was in her little in-law apartment basement doing these beautiful quilts. That's a home occupation. A regular business, I think we all know. So this lies somewhere in between, in that it's something that will have an impact on the neighborhood, but it's an impact that we're hoping is actually a positive thing. It encourages this kind of micro enterprise and allows people to have businesses and do a retail kind of business in a residential area. Now, the staff has worked with the Planning Commission and with the property owners in question who are here tonight. I know it's been long. I appreciate it. They've been very gracious in working with us and helping us to get to a place with this ordinance where it accommodates them and their desires for the property, as well as protecting the adjacent property owners from having something that would be too much. And so with the restrictions that you see in the proposed ordinance change, we feel like that this strikes that balance. And the planning commission voted last night to recommend approval of this. And so that's what you have in front of you.
First.
Yeah, well, so I mean, I was on planning commission when we talked about this and we didn't think it fit with the home occupation. Cause like Bill said, you shouldn't know what's going on. That's a home occupation. And we asked the applicants to work with staff to try to change this or find another avenue. Cause we thought it was a good idea. We liked it, but it didn't fit what they were applying for. So I think this is great that we found something for them. I had a couple questions. So like on one of them, activities conducted primarily indoors. So we know that this applicant, all their stuff's outside, right? So are we gonna, since it says primarily, I mean, are we gonna have any issues with that verbiage in here?
So the activity that would go on indoors is the production of things that they're then selling out on the property. So the on-site sales that's indicated there under allowed or activities. And we're drawing a distinction between uses and activities, by the way, because use is a legal term that applies to what things the zoning would allow. The use is the micro enterprise, but the activity that would go on inside of that are these on-site and online sales incidental to production or services that are going on inside the house. So that's what the understanding is, that you're producing the things inside, you're making your delicious jams and jellies, and then you're taking them outside to sell them to people that show up 1 or 2 at an hour.
I guess my question is, how do you regulate that? Like
We don't know, honestly.
That-
It's a good question. It's because this is a new zoning type question, a new zoning type use, then we haven't had experience with regulating this kind of thing. So right now, the only enforcement is to go in and say, I'm sorry, you can't do this. They have noted that there could be a need or a desire for this kind of use in this area, in this particular zone. And a good zoning ordinance would look for ways to try to accommodate those kinds of desirable uses. So that's what we're trying to do. Now, enforcement is going to be largely complaint driven, like most of the enforcement in the city. So if there's any kind of complaint about it's just getting to be too much, or there, there's noises or other kinds of things going on, then we're going to go in and say, you need to stop doing that. You need to stick by what you agreed to do and the requirements of the code. And, we have ways of doing that, just the same way that we have ways of enforcing all of the other zoning restrictions.
Brett, you look like you have something to say.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry. And I was here for those discussions as well, planning and zoning, for multiple sessions of that. Even when, and these guys, the individuals, the citizens are here are not the applicants. This is just something to help, really tailor-made to help them be able to comply with what we may have in place, right, if we adopt this. Correct?
Correct.
So, and we kind of had a little, we didn't give them the direction, planning and zoning gave them the direction to do that. I guess my only thing with it is, like, it's so tailor-made. I mean, even we changed it from 200 feet of frontage to 150 feet of frontage. And I hold my hands up is because they're on a corner lot, right? The corner of Clark and Hale, right? And I just think of other individuals or other places within inside of our town where having that would really limit this. Now, while I agree that maybe a home that has 70 feet of frontage, it may not fit that. But would a home in a cul-de-sac that may be an acre lot or a half acre lot, but yet it's pinned
Verse,
down
yeah.
against the cul-de-sac and you only have 100 feet of frontage? Why is it us to say that, that they're not able to have this, and these guys are? So I guess my beef has always been, and I've never voiced it, has always been about the frontage.
And that's a fair question. We were looking as staff, I'm speaking for staff because we're the ones that came up with these
With the idea.
restrictions. We were looking for ways to limit it from being just everywhere. And because if we did allow it just everywhere, we should just change the zone and be allowed it.
Yeah.
But a reasonable restriction, and it had to do with parking and access and the display of what's going on and things like that. We wanted people to feel like this is a special and kind of unique thing that can happen in some areas, but just not generally.
Yeah, and I guess, more towards the Taylor portion of this, is this the RM7 zone too?
Right.
Because the home that this is tailored around is not necessarily a typical RM7
Lot. Yeah.
right? And so it's more like a third of an acre lot,
Mhm.
essentially. So there's so many homes really from West Street to Willow and from Durfee Street to Clark that are really that designation, and an RM7.
Yeah.
And so anything outside of that, we really don't have a lot of RM7.
It's true. And obviously the reason why we're looking at it for this zone is because that's
Because of-
where,
because of the
right, it's where it's being considered. My thought would be, first off, with regard to the frontage, if it works well, it could be a model that we extend to other zones.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work well, then we could say, well, I'm glad we didn't extend it to other zones. The other thought is, if it works well, then we can change the frontage restrictions. We could expand it to whatever. And so the idea would be, let's put these kinds of things in place and see how it goes. And it could be one of those things that's a lesson learned, and we either like it or we don't.
Okay.
Jake, Jeff, Brittany, do any of you have any concerns with this or questions?
I don't.
I guess I just have, there's a lot of limitations here that I feel like are gonna be hard to enforce, and it's just a lot. I'm thinking as me as my neighbor, not that I don't know. Yeah, we could say, yeah, you can't do that anymore, and then it stops, and then it happens again, and then,
Sure.
I don't know, it seems kind of, I like that we're trying to really nail it down, like this is what it is, but I just feel like enforceability may be an issue. I don't know, maybe I need more information. It sounds like you guys have more, the planning commission, I think, got a little bit more.
I've sat
Well,
through
sat
5
through-
meetings
yes.
where we discussed this.
Okay, so I
So,
feel like maybe this is just my
Derek
first
sat through
time
all
hearing
5
it,
of those
so
too.
Yeah.
maybe I just need a little bit more context.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I'll give you a little context. So the reason why this won't work for home occupation is because they have these sheds in their front yard that they sell their products out of. And in the for home occupation, that doesn't work because it's not supposed to look like any business is going there. Also, another thing we had was, I believe you can't have sheds in the front yard, was another hurdle we were trying to get around. You can't have any outbuildings or utility buildings in the front yard. And they are on a corner lot, so they've got a side yard, and we talked about that, can you move everything to the side? But then that's,
Yeah.
we tried to go through a lot, but those were the hurdles we were trying to get through, was doesn't fit home occupation, and then the utility sheds in the front, that's not permitted in, I don't think, any zoning.
Yeah, the other context that I would give is that there was an effort to try to understand and remember that these are residential areas. This is not a business area where we want to have people go and come and shop and peruse and do all these things, because that affects the quality of life of the neighbors in the neighborhood. So it was, we were trying to put reasonable strictures on what could and is allowed to be on the property, and still allow the micro enterprise to grow. It was brought up last night that, you know, what if they do have more customers than this? And what if they do have, the business grows to the point where it's this thriving thing? And I said, well, great. That means that there's time maybe to move into a real storefront kind of opportunity, and or a quilted bear kind of a situation where, you know, it's getting enough traffic and traction that it's its own thing now. Great, fantastic. But then that would grow outside of the parameters of what we're anticipating here with this code, and grow into something different.
It's a step between. It's a step between.
Yes, this would be the step between a strict home occupation and a full-blown retail.
Right. Have we seen this done elsewhere, or did we look?
As far as I know, this is unique.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun to actually be a part of something like this. I think it's the kind of message that we want to send about Grantsville, is that we're a small town. We're willing to work with people on coming up with creative solutions to interesting problems, and that we can be on the forefront of things like this, where it's a benefit for the community, it's a benefit for the property owners, and it's a nice thing to have.
I think another thing is, and we talked about this yesterday in planning and zoning, is that this is a conditional use permit, and it needs to be approved by the planning commission with reasonable conditions tied to it. So if anyone else wants to run off of this micro entrepreneurship, then they'll have to come before the planning and zoning.
As will these folks back here. Once this becomes a conditional use,
approval.
they're gonna have to come get a permit too, so.
But we all know with conditional uses, I mean, you know, if they don't meet the standards that we have in here, then they can deny it. But if they can meet all the standards, then it would be tough to deny, so. Right, Tyson?
And the burden is on the city.
Yeah,
for
it's on
that.
us. That's all.
The presumption is that the permitted use would go forward.
And those are decisions that would never come to us. It would just stick
Right.
with planning and zoning, and it would be that body that would approve those conditions and that use permit.
I like it, and thanks for working with the citizens. Can we make a motion?
You absolutely can. Jeff is ready to go
I
home.
think we,
He wants his eggs.
no,
jams.
just, let's go. I make a motion, we approve ordinance 2026-07, amending chapter 8 of the Grantsville City Code to add micro entrepreneurship as a conditional use.
We have a motion by Councilmember Williams. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Thomas. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, roll call.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Did you get all that, Alicia? Perfect. All right. Item number 12. Rostoff.
Actually, good.
13.
Well, I guess it is now 13, yeah. So just before we adjourn, we won't go through council reports or any of those things tonight because we're still adjusting council assignments, but I do want to ask if anybody is available for a groundbreaking for Scenic Slopes Park. We had the pre-con meeting today and we are ready to get going. So we'd like to have a groundbreaking for the park. Is there a day next week that anyone is available? Let's just say this. Is anybody available on Monday evening?
Monday to Wednesday are my best days.
Yes.
Yes?
I'm out Monday.
Okay. If we can get 3 or 4, we'll call it good.
Yeah,
You could work that
I
out?
can work it out, yeah.
Okay, I will arrange that then for Monday evening.
Thank you.
Sound good?
You'll post that and.
Yes, and Alicia will make sure that we are in compliance. Christy, is that okay with
Yeah,
you?
just thinking you don't want to go too late, it'll be dark. You said evening.
I did say evening. I don't think daytime is gonna work though for the majority. What's the earliest time that anyone is available?
After 3,
5,
Well, I mean, yeah.
3, 4, 5.
3, 4, or 5?
4 later, 4, yeah.
Do 5 o'clock, Jeff?
Yeah, I'll use you to get out of work. so
Thank you.
yes,
You're
5.
welcome.
Let's go.
I could do.
Okay,
Let's say 4.
let's say 4 o'clock. Does that work, Christy? Perfect. We'll plan on Monday at 4 for groundbreaking for the park. I need a motion to adjourn. Did I miss something?
What was the meeting with the school district was Monday?
Is that at the same time?
It's at 3. It's a Tuesday. No, it's a Tuesday. Sorry, my.
Okay, okay.
I think there's an irrigation meeting.
It's on the 11th. And is that?
I'll go, so tell me. Sorry, I saw something, but I didn't remind me the day and
That's
time.
Wednesday, right?
It's Wednesday, I think it's at 7, if I'm not mistaken. I'll get you the exact time.
It's Tuesday.
We're good for Monday?
Monday's
Okay,
good.
we'll plan for Monday. Just need a motion to adjourn.
Here, I make a motion, we
We don't
adjourn.
want to stay here.
We have a Motion by Councilmember Thomas and a second by Councilmember Skinner, all in favor.
That was a heavy load.
Aye.
I don't have a card on me. I'm going out today, so I'll.
There's some out there in the hallway, they should be.
Yeah.
Okay.